Hi, I'm Nancy Capistran, and I'm a Vistage Peer Advisory Group Chair in Greater Boston, Massachusetts, which means I work with local CEOs and business owners who want to connect with other chief executives to help them become better leaders and accelerate their company's growth. I'd like to welcome you to this introduction to Vistage. This event will show you how a highly dynamic peer advisory group and an award-winning executive coach can assist you and your organization in growing. How, you may be thinking? By helping you step out of your day-to-day tasks to work on your business rather than in it. By asking you questions no one else is asking you and exposing you to ideas you've never considered. Plus, by testing your preconceptions, assisting you in identifying your blind spots, and pushing you way beyond your comfort zone, much like a highly skilled fitness coach would do. Over the years, I have found that CEOs and business owners face unique challenges. They're frustrated that they are stuck in the weeds. They're concerned that no one is pushing them to grow personally or professionally, and they are worried that they are isolated, and they want outside perspectives to bring themselves and their business to the next level. Over the next 40 minutes or so, you'll have an opportunity to learn from a world-class speaker, Dr. Bill Crawford. Bill is a psychologist, trainer, coach, and host of 2 PBS specials on clarity, confidence, and creativity. So many of us these days have challenges with stress and effective communications. If you want to improve yourself and your relationships, then you need to stay tuned. Bill makes it easy to understand and put his strategies into practice. He will be sharing some great insights in just a few moments. You will also have the opportunity to hear from 5 members in my peer advisory group who will share in their own words the impact of Vistage on their leadership and life. They will answer questions like, why did you choose to carve time out of your busy schedule to join Vistage? What are the things you most value about being a part of this group? How do you describe the culture and the group meetings? What are the biggest benefits from one-to-one meetings with your coach? Plus, the members will also share a personal message to you as a potential member. You're in for a real treat. Thanks for joining us in this exploratory journey. Hi, Bill. How are you today?
I'm wonderful. How are you?
I'm doing great. It's so good to see you again. I remember back in October of 21 when you came to my Vistage group and the wealth of knowledge that you brought. The CEOs really appreciated that. And that's why I wanted to chat with you again today. So thank you for coming.
My pleasure. Looking forward to kind of sharing what I know with your audience and kind of helping folks be more purposeful as they move through life.
Absolutely. So let me just give the audience a little bit of information about you, if I could, please. So Dr. Bill Crawford holds a master's degree and a PhD in psychology from the University of Houston. He is also a licensed psychologist, author of 8 books, and an organizational consultant. Over the past 30 years, he has created over 3,500 presentations for organizations such as Sprint, Shell, the American Medical Association, and many others, both nationally and internationally. His 2 PBS specials on stress and communication have been seen by over 15 million people, and he has been quoted as an expert in publications such as the New York Times, Entrepreneur, Investors Business Daily, the Chicago Tribune, and Working Mother, just to name a few. He has also been honored as a Vistage International Speaker of the Year. Bill, can you talk a little about your experience with Vistage?
Yeah, I've been working with Vistage for about 10 years as a speaker, and so I've seen a lot of groups. I've done over 700 presentations to Vistage groups, and I just want folks to know that what the value is of that. Because, and if until you've experienced it, it's hard to know. Because really, whole day, But what I have found is when leaders have an opportunity to get together, share perspectives, that's one of the things that Vistage does really well. That you get a perspective from the chair, which is your coach. You get a perspective from your members, and you get a perspective from from speakers like myself who come in and share their expertise. And the idea is to give a leader an opportunity to give more information about how things work so they don't have to think about it all themselves. They don't have to keep reinventing the wheel. Other people have probably done it in a certain way. And I've just found people talk over and over and over about how valuable it's been. And it's certainly been a lot of meaningful experiences for me as well.
That's great. I've definitely experienced that firsthand. So what makes your work different than others in your space?
Yeah, when I was getting my PhD, I said, okay, Bill, you learned a lot of good information, but how can you put it into a system, a philosophy that is unique? Because there's a lot of folks out there saying a lot of wonderful things, but sometimes it kind of sounds like everybody's saying the same thing. So when I was getting my PhD, I took a course called The Biological Basis of Behavior. Yeah, and in it I learned that everything we think and feel and do and say, how we react to others, how others react to us, all has to do with how the brain processes information. So I've spent the last 30 years of my life creating a system, a philosophy, a framework that I call life from the top of the mind. It's what I get to go around teaching to Vistage and everybody. It's in the book and it's what I get to do. But it shows people how to access their best by accessing a very specific part of the brain. And how to avoid the stress, frustration, anxiety, resentment, the stuff that gets in the way of our clarity, confidence, and creativity by avoiding a specific part of the brain.
I love what you said about accessing the best part of us, right? Because oftentimes we're not showing up as the best version of ourselves when we're stressed or in highly demanding times. Can you talk a little bit more about that?
Yeah, people talk about this a lot. And when I like to start off my seminars and my presentations with, okay, tell me what are the situations that bug you, annoy you, get under your skin, get in the way of you accessing your best. Because really, most people are pretty good when everything's going great. It's these difficult people, difficult situations that trigger them. So people will go, oh man, it's this and it's that and it's this and it's that. And say, okay, well, boy, that's important. Now, when we find ourselves dealing with all of these negative situations, these difficult people situations, how do we find ourselves reacting? And said, oh man, I get stressed, I get frustrated, I get angry, I get annoyed. So I talk about how the situation triggers a certain reaction. But that's really not the problem. The problem is the reaction makes the original situation seem worse, which triggers another reaction and worse and reaction and worse. And we find ourselves trapped in an ever-escalating cycle. Yeah. So when I'm helping people understand what's going on, I talk about the what, the why, and the how. New information about the what, the why, and the how. The what is we're getting caught in a cycle. It's not just that we get triggered. Because again, if we just got triggered, it can flip up to clarity, confidence, and creativity, no problem. It's getting caught in that cycle. The why is how the brain processes information, and the how is my three-part system about, okay, now that we know what's going on and why it's going on, what do we do about it?
So how do you build that awareness to recognize when you're kind of coming unglued?
Yeah, it's a great question. And what I encourage people to do is to use their history, because we can all think about a time in the past where we were stressed or we were frustrated or we were annoyed or we were angry. And it's not about never feeling that. We're human beings. But what did that feel like? What was that like? What kind of, was there a tightness in my chest? Was my blood pressure up? Was my thinking muddled? Because when we find ourselves triggered like that and we're feeling these things, we have a certain physiological feeling in the body. So I encourage people to say, okay, remember a time in the past when you were feeling that way, and then start going backward in time to the point where you were feeling really, really good. Okay, here's where I was feeling triggered. Here's feeling really good. And start going forward a little bit at a time until you first notice that first little tweak. Because we want to catch it early. We don't want to wait until we're, so caught in the cycle we can't even think straight. So the more we can catch it early by recognizing that our stress, our frustration, our resentment are valuable signals that something needs to change. It's not our failure to cope. It's not what people are doing to us. It's, I talk about a little red light going off in our dashboard when we're driving down the road. That's a valuable signal. That's not the problem. It's part of the solution. So we got to start seeing our stress, our anxiety, our frustration as a valuable signal, and then we can do something about it.
So how do you, do something about it? I kind of call it recalibrate. So how do you do that? And what's that process or timeline to be able to really become more seasoned at that?
Yeah. Being seasoned at it is basically a practice. And so I kind of give people a way of practicing. The timeline is actually not that long. We could actually change how we're thinking and feeling in as little as 30 seconds to a minute. Yeah. And the way we do that is first to recognize, okay, if I'm feeling stressed, angry, frustrated, annoyed, I am coming from a certain part of the brain. So my middle brain, the limbic system, which is the scanner, processor, router part of the brain, and it's kind of been always kind of keeping us safe by keeping us worried. As long as we've been on the planet, being worried or anxious or frustrated a long time ago probably did keep us safe. The middle brain, unfortunately, isn't very smart, and it's working with old software. So it has a tendency to misinterpret something or someone negative as dangerous and throws us into the lower brain, which is where we need to go into fight or flight. But since we're not dealing with a true dangerous situation, we just get stuck in this angry, stressed, frustrated lower brain. But if we can recognize, okay, if I'm feeling angry, stressed, frustrated, annoyed, anything negative, I am coming from a certain part of the brain. I want to shift from that lower reactive brain up into what I call the top of the mind, this more purposeful, proactive brain. And the way we begin to do that, and almost everybody has heard this, is by taking 2 or 3 deep breaths and actually saying the word relax on the exhale. Now people go, well, that's great, Bill, but that didn't do anything. It didn't change anybody. I go, okay, here's the reason that's important. Because when we're stuck in the lower brain, this part of the brain is in charge. We want to make sure this part of the brain is in charge. So we want to have the upper 80% of the brain literally take over 2 functions normally controlled by the lower brain. So breathing is normally controlled by the lower brain, and muscle tension is normally controlled by the lower brain.
Interesting.
So when we breathe, and I encourage people to use the 4-4-4 methods because it's what the Navy SEALs use. So it's inhale for a count of 4, hold it for a count of 4, exhale for a count of 4, say the word relax on the exhale. So you want to do that 2 or 3 times, and that takes about 5 or 10 seconds. What that does is it puts us in a frame of mind or a mindset now where the upper 80% of the brain is more in charge. But we don't want to stop there. We want to say, okay, now I know how what part of the brain I'm coming from. How do I want to think and feel going forward? What are the qualities or characteristics I want to bring to this situation? If I were teaching someone I love how to deal with this difficult person or this difficult situation, if I were doing it in a way that it was being recorded so it could be used as a training film for everybody who looks to me for leadership and inspiration, what would I want them to see? Probably something like clarity, confidence, and creativity. I want to be more clear, want to be more confident, and I certainly want to be able to be more creative. So who am I when I'm that way? So finding out how I want to be is the ask part of the model, and then imagining being that way. Because the brain doesn't know the difference between a real and an imagined event. So anytime we imagine being a certain way, either positive or negative, the brain triggers chemicals that are either positive or negative. Negative chemicals for the most part are adrenaline, noradrenaline, and cortisol. Positive for the most part are serotonin and endorphins. So as we breathe and we say the word relax on the exhale and ask how I'd rather be feeling, clear, confident, creative, imagine being that way, then we want to notice the change. Because at that point in the model, which is a 5-step model that actually spells brain, B-R-A-I-N, breathe, relax, ask, imagine, notice, we will have actually changed the chemical makeup of our brain and body, and we can do that in about 30 seconds to a minute.
Interesting. And so I always think about change is hard for a lot of people. So how do they get, you think about New Year's resolutions and how many people actually set them and how many people actually achieve those, it's very small. So how have you found to be the most successful way for people to implement this going forward in their life?
Yeah. The first way I found is to actually use the past to influence the future. Because we can all remember a time in the past when we just lost it. And we said something that made the situation worse, or people misunderstood, or we had to go back and clean up later. So what we want to do is kind of imagine like we're watching a movie. So we're watching ourselves in this situation, and right before we get triggered, we push the pause button and everybody freezes. And we say, okay, now if I could go step into that movie and choose the qualities or characteristics I would have liked to have felt or brought to life right then, what would that look like? And we choose 2 or 3 qualities and we imagine doing it differently. That actually begins to rewire the brain, because anytime we think about something, we create and reinforce certain neural pathways in the brain. So we can use the past to influence the present and the future. Then we want to ask ourselves the question, okay, have I ever gotten an email and been triggered? Well, yeah. Think that'll happen again? Probably. Have I ever been in traffic and been triggered? Have I ever gotten a text message and been triggered? So we want to make a list of all the times that in the past when we have gotten triggered that really weren't conversations. Conversations are the hard part. But email, voicemail, text, traffic, social media, cable news, those are all times when we're not face to face with someone. So if we can say, okay, in the future, every time I'm dealing with a situation that isn't face to face, I'm going to stop. I'm going to breathe. I'm going to say the word relax on the exhale. I'm going to imagine the way I want to be, and I'm going to notice the change. So if we'll kind of commit to doing that, that says my peace of mind is so important that I'm willing to give 30 seconds every time this happens, So I say, hey, is your peace of mind worth 30 seconds,
How do you master that, right? Because I think so much, we're tired, we're busy, we've got all kinds of people pulling at us, everybody needs a piece of us, right?
Yeah.
And how do we, in those moments, catch ourselves? It's like mastering that moment when you kind of unravel, but you got to catch it fast to pull back. And how long does it take to master that piece of that awareness?
Well, it's a whole lot easier if you go into the moment already in the top of the mind. See, many of us go into life either neutral or worried or stressed or angry or frustrated, especially difficult situations, like we leave the house late and, oh man, I'm going to be in traffic and I'm already stressed and worried, or the kids did something, or, I didn't get enough sleep or whatever. But we're going into life already in that lower brain. Yeah. So I encourage people to wake up, and before you get out of bed, before you look at your phone, before you do anything, you say, okay, what are the qualities or characteristics I want to bring to the morning? Just the morning. I know some of the people I'm going to be dealing with, some of the situations I'm going to be in. Who do I want to be? How do I want to be? And so you choose 2 or 3 qualities of characteristics of you at your best, and then you imagine going into the morning being that way. Then you use the morning to practice being that way. So you're going into life already in the top of the mind. That's so much easier than having to stop in the middle of a negative situation and go, wait a minute, I got to breathe and relax and, ask some questions and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Then around lunchtime, I say, okay, now we've done the morning. Now around lunchtime, we stop, we reboot, do the brain model, say a prayer, take a walk around the house, take a walk around the building, do some deep breathing, meditation, whatever you do to create a moment of clarity. Stephen Covey calls it the pause button. And then you ask a question, okay, what's my highest purpose this afternoon? What are the qualities or characteristics that I want to bring to the afternoon? I have a pretty good idea of what the afternoon looks like. How do I want to be? And you imagine doing that, and you go into the afternoon already in the top of the mind. Then sometime between the afternoon and the evening, on the drive home, we stop and say, okay, what are the qualities or characteristics I want to bring to the evening? The people that I love the most and who love me the most. So I'm not going in drained and depleted and giving them just kind of the leftovers from the day. So the more we go into life already in the top of the mind, at least 3 times a day, in the morning, the afternoon, the evening, that starts to create a habit of going into meetings in the top of the mind, and phone calls in the top of the mind, and conversations in the top of the mind.
Very nice. I love that strategy. And what's interesting, I think having some kind of protocol or regular routine for which you kind of reassess and recalibrate throughout the course of the day is helpful. I'm curious, we all get caught off guard, right? And we can't necessarily plan for that. We sometimes, can be intentional about what's within our control, but oftentimes it's when we're not in control that things kind of go a little haywire. Mm-hmm. So can you share a little bit about techniques that you can use when we're in that space?
Sure. The first one is one simple word: diarrhea.
Lovely.
Yes, because if we were in a negative situation and we had an attack of diarrhea, we would not say, well, I'll just deal with this later. I don't have time to deal with it now. We would say, excuse me, I got to go to the bathroom. By the way, diarrhea is the perfect excuse to leave any conversation you're ever in for the rest of your life, just so you know that. So in other words, sometimes it's just a good idea to say, I tell you what, I need to check some data, or I got to go to the bathroom, or I tell you what, could we kind of circle back and actually pause that conversation? Okay. Another way you can do that is a technique from neuro-linguistic programming called anchoring. If you'll start imagining who you are when you're clear, confident, and creative, what's your tone of voice, what's your body language, and kind of anchor it with a physical experience, like maybe squeezing your hands together. If you'll do that enough, then what'll start to happen is in the future, when you squeeze your hands together, your body will start to kind of trigger that more purposeful way of being. But you got to do it enough to where you pair this with that way of being. There is a new thing by a gentleman by the name of Shazad called positive intelligence. And he talks about rubbing your fingers together so that you feel the ridges on your fingerprints, which I just love.
Yeah.
And so what you're doing is you're taking your focus from, oh my goodness, there's this difficult situation, to, okay, wait a minute, what does that feel like? And that kind of brings us into the moment and helps us be a little bit more grounded in those difficult situations.
That's excellent. Thank you. I appreciate you sharing that. I'm curious, if there was one thing that people took away from this conversation, what would you want that to be?
That when we get triggered, it's not what someone is doing to us, and it's not our failure to cope. It's our middle brain, because it's unconscious middle brain thinking that we need to be worried and anxious to be safe. It's misinterpreting something or someone, probably negative. We don't generally get triggered by positive situations, but it's misinterpreting that negative person or situation as dangerous, throwing us into the part of the brain that's designed to deal with danger. And our anger and our stress and our frustration and our annoyance is a chemical change in our brain and body triggered by this misinterpretation of the middle brain. When people go, oh, well, okay, well, that makes sense. Now they go, now, okay, what do I do with it? And that's where we get into the Life from the Top of the Mind system that shows us how to get to the top of the mind, how to rewire the brain, and then how to deal with other people when they're stuck in that lower brain.
Interesting. So how would, if somebody has listened to what we're talking about today and they're interested in learning more about you and potentially hiring you for their company, talk a little bit about what that might look like.
Sure. Well, the cool thing, the book is basically a manual for how to do this, and it's in the 4th edition. I've been revising it, and my work with Vistage has been really helpful, because working as Vistage, you guys are the New York of speakers. If you can make it in Vistage, you can make it anywhere, because you're very demanding and kind of have a high standard, which is great. Then it's also on Audible, so for those folks who like to listen. I do have a YouTube channel. It's got about 500 short videos on there. And I take my Life from the Top of the Mind system, and I talk about confidence and leadership and parenting and relationships and anxiety and all kinds of stuff. Plus, I've got a website, so you can always Google Bill Crawford, PhD, and I'll come up on the first page, and it shows you my philosophy. I have a very unique fee-based philosophy that I call integrity-based pricing. Basically says, I believe I'm dealing with people of integrity who probably have a certain amount that they can afford to bring me in. If you'll just pay me whatever that is, I will speak to your organization for whatever that amount is. That allows me to work with all kind of different organizations. And I love going out and sharing this with people so that they can take it and then use it in their own life and teach it to the people that look to them for leadership.
Very nice. Love that. Thank you for sharing that. I appreciate it. I did have one last question that I wanted to ask you, because you've been in the Vistage community as a speaker for a very long time. And I'm just curious, what do you see in the Vistage groups? Because you've seen so many, what do you see as the common thread?
The common thread is people who join Vistage groups are open, they're eager to learn, they want practical information they can use immediately. Don't just tell me kind of psychobabble, but they are very, very eager to learn and then take what they've learned and apply it. So there's that perspective. They're also part of a group that trusts each other and supports each other. So that's a nice combination of an eagerness to learn with a really caring about their fellow group members. And I've seen people form really close friendships and connections with Vistage members, because you get in there and you talk about real life, not just business, but all kinds of stuff. And it's a wonderful kind of container, crucible to some degree for learning and growing and trusting and becoming part of a meaningful organization.
That's great. I appreciate you sharing that. I see that as well as a chair, but it's nice to see from your perspective when you're going into the different groups, if there's that consistency across, and it's refreshing to hear that that's the case.
Absolutely.
So I appreciate you sharing that. Thank you so much. I do thank you for your time today. Wonderful job. Thank you so much. And I look forward to our next interaction. Thanks, Bill.
My pleasure. Take care.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Well, Nancy, I do have a busy schedule, and I chose to carve out time because as a new CEO in Boston, having been a former CEO in another organization, it's lonely at the top, and you really need somebody that you can confide in and talk to. And having Nancy as a mentor has been very, very helpful to me, because she holds me accountable in ways that my board doesn't, and is able to help me get to the nitty-gritty of problems. And then my group has been excellent in providing a diverse background of people from different industries, as well as varied life experiences that help us to come together and talk about the issues that we're facing as leaders and what that means to us, and then to problem solve any issues that we might have. And even though we have similar issues, because we're from different industries, we have different viewpoints on that. And it's been very helpful to me to be able to solve the problems that I have here in my non-for-profit organization.
So I joined Vistage primarily to get accountability from other business owners and to help with getting perspective on the issues that we all face in our day-to-day lives. And being the solo owner of a business myself, I don't have that internal accountability. So Vistage has really helped provide that.
When you have C in front of your title, chief of something, you're basically the only one in your company. And that automatically puts you in a position where there's nobody else who is doing your job that you can talk to about your job. If you're the CEO, you're basically over all of that, and you really are the only one. And it is one of the loneliest positions that you could be in. And I realized I needed peers to talk to. And I wanted to take the time to do that and see if it would help me be a better CEO.
As a recently appointed president, I was looking for a confidential outlet. Vistage provided me with a peer group and one-on-one coaching. It allows me to have that confidential outlet while obtaining diverse perspectives on the various challenges that I knew I'd be facing.
The things I most value about being part of this group is related to the comfortable setting with peers that are in different industries, but in similar phases of their life and their journey as professionals, and being able to have candid conversations outside of a work setting to get new perspectives on how to approach business challenges.
The things I value most about this group is the camaraderie that we've developed, the feeling that no one has a hidden agenda, and the fact that we are able to learn as well from the different speakers that Vistage offers at the different group sessions that we have each month.
I value all the people who are in the group. It's really sort of interesting, and whenever somebody can attend, I feel it personally that that person's not there with their insights and their experience. One of the things that you find in the group when you're in a group like this is that what you think are your problems, all the things that you're addressing in your company, there are other people who are dealing with very similar, if not identical problems in a different environment, in a different industry. And having that group of people there who get to know you over time, know your strengths, know your weaknesses, they can help you address those issues that you're struggling with, and they can help you celebrate the things that are going well for you. And that allows you to be more responsive, to bring your best self to the company, and to air some of your stuff in a place that's a safe place to do, and then come back with a better solution and a fresh head and a clear mind about things.
Each meeting, I walk away with new ideas that I can take back to my team and organization. I also walk away knowing that I'm not alone. The president role can be somewhat lonely at times, and it's really helpful to have a supportive peer group and coach.
I would say the one thing I value most about being part of this Vistage group is the different perspectives that each of the people has, and different businesses, different industries, different personalities. They come at issues from varying perspectives, and it's really helpful to me to hear what they think on these topics. as I try to incorporate that into my business.
How I would describe the culture in our group is, at its core, it starts with a culture of trust that is uplifting, positive, candid, and inclusive. I always feel safe, and I feel that I'm getting great feedback in a way that's constructive, but also candid. And that's extremely valuable and hard to achieve.
I would describe the culture of the group as I find it relaxing in a way, since a lot of our days are stressful back-to-back days with meetings, and being together with this group is respectful. They're confident. They help me to solve problems, as well as provide confidentiality, so that I know that what I'm saying isn't going to be leaked out to any place. And we're able to therefore solve some very difficult problems that many of us have, including our own personal problems. It doesn't just have to be related to business, and that's been extremely helpful.
I think our group culture is, not to be repeated, but senior executives with very diverse backgrounds and sort of a mutual trust and respect of each other's opinions, and a willingness to be vulnerable with those opinions and open discussions. I would say that's probably the best way I can describe the culture.
So the culture of the group, and one of the things that I really appreciate is that people, we all respect each other. We wouldn't be in these positions if somehow we weren't driven to be in these positions, and if we didn't have a desire to create something ourselves, or to manage something to a better place, or to create opportunities for other people. So we all come into that room with respect for each other at the beginning, and then as we're interacting, I think that respect has just grown over time. And I think that we all recognize that we need a space in which we can exchange information confidentially. I feel like I get really good advice from people. And sometimes I think I have a direction and I listen to it, and I come back with a different direction. Sometimes I hear somebody else's issues or what they're struggling with, and I think one thing and somebody else thinks another, and you start exchanging ideas, and we all learn from that process. And so I think that open culture, the respect for each other, the acknowledgement that the respect for each other that actually increases over time in some way, because we get to know each other and we get to know how we deal with things, and we learn not only what's similar, but what's different about our industries, and that kind of expands all of our experience. So all of those things for the culture are really enjoyable. And we get to know each other personally, and we get to know each other professionally.
It's really a group of selfless individuals with diverse backgrounds. A couple of words I'd use to describe the culture is selfless. The group of individuals that we have in our group, they truly want others to succeed, and they share their knowledge, their experience, and honest opinion with me and with the others in the group. It's confidential. It's a safe space to share experiences, challenges, and ideas, which will help the other members grow and learn, as well as help myself grow and learn.
I would describe the group meetings as time well spent. So first of all, there's always an agenda. Nancy does a great job by putting out, it's like a placemat, so we know what's happening, and we're able to solve problems. We hear about the different people in our group. Since I've been in the group now for over a year, I've had the opportunity to present a couple of times about my own organization and to learn more about the other people's organizations. When you host, you get to take the opportunity to do that. We've also spent time learning more about each other personally. And there's always a learning opportunity. So there's always a different speaker each month. And we're able to learn different aspects of business or different ways to enhance our skills.
Meetings are really well run. We have an agenda that's laid out and managed by Nancy. And while we have time slots for each agenda item, Nancy really does a great job at managing the day and adjusting the schedule if, let's say, a value added conversation is happening and we happen to go over the time allotted for whatever it was that we're discussing. Nancy will manage and adjust the schedule on the back end to make sure that we're allowed to continue that conversation that is value added for the group, as well as achieving our goals for the day.
The group meetings are focused, topical, useful, always mentally stimulating. And I walk away being inspired about the topics and the discussion points and the workshops that we have during our meetings. And many of the things that we review or that we learn or that we discuss, I find directly applicable in my day-to-day work in my professional life.
I think we always have a speaker, and the speaker brings different things. Nancy picks speakers intentionally to address things that different members of the group might be experiencing or that she's hearing thematically. And so we have speakers who end up being very, very useful and relevant to members of the group.
I think to describe the way the meeting works best, I would say it's a group meeting and a group discussion really built around a specific agenda that Nancy lays out, and then where we sprinkle in very specific topic oriented speakers, and the group just has a real collaborative feel in digesting all of these topics.
The biggest benefits in the one-to-one meetings with my chair, Nancy, have been around invaluable guidance and feedback on how to approach business challenges, and the specific actions that I can take to stay accountable to personal development and growth objectives.
So unlike any other coaches I've encountered who typically have a direct line to whoever you report to, whether that's, another individual within your organization or the board, Nancy is not connected with anyone that I work with, or anyone who's evaluating my performance as a president of the company. So she's a fantastic resource to bounce ideas off of, share challenges with, obtain advice from, and really holds me accountable in the nicest of ways. She's a vault. I don't have anything, I don't have to worry that anything I share will get back with anyone I work with. Really just great to have another, perspective that's outside of the organization that I'm operating in, to really give me a different perspective, ask me questions, make me think about things differently than maybe I was. And really just giving me a different way to think about things that maybe I haven't encountered in the past.
When my one-to-one meetings with Nancy is that she helps me focus on things I really need to work on. A lot of times that's around relationship issues within the business, whether it's my relationship with others or a problem between other people that I'm trying to improve their interaction skills, and holding me accountable. Also checking in about how I'm doing on personal life things, which is another thing that CEOs and people who are really busy can tend to forget, to make sure that we're taking care of ourselves. So make sure I'm taking care of myself so that I can be more effective in my job and more balanced, and I can impart that same self-care notions onto my employees as well.
The biggest benefits of my one-to-one meetings with Nancy are that they are scheduled in advance and I have them each month. And I know that I can talk to her about a business problem or a personal problem, and she helps me see different sides of those issues, and she holds me accountable. And I also know if there's something that pops up emergently during the month, I have the opportunity to speak to her and just give her a call or a shout out, and she'll make some time.
So the biggest benefit from my one-on-ones with Nancy are the ability to download what's going on in my schedule and how things are happening inside and outside the business. And when I talk through those issues with Nancy, I get a really good perspective on what's happening rather than just thinking about it myself. I get that. You hear it, you talk about it, you get a better perspective, and then giving me clarity on the next chart to course to address all those topics and all those issues.
I would just say it's a great group. I have learned so much from the people in the group. I feel like I'm part of a community. I knew that I needed to be part of a peer group. I knew that I had peers in the industry, but most of my peers in the industry are also in my industry. So there's a tendency to, not want to talk about what your challenges are unless you know it's a challenge that everybody has, which has to do with maybe customer base or things like that. So being in an environment that is safe to talk about business challenges without giving away something that is proprietary or that could be an issue downstream is one of the best things. Is you can actually have people who understand what your challenges are, you understand what their challenges are, and talking through how you address those challenges. And it's just been a huge thing. I've had to miss a couple of meetings because of super pressing customer things, and it was depressing to miss the meeting. So, I've said it more than once. If there are members who aren't there because they have equally pressing things, it's kind of like, oh, but I so appreciate that person's insights on this thing. I learned something, and so it's become a group that's that is like a family in a sense. It's like an extended family that is there that can help. You can help hold up, and they can help hold you up.
Well, I have to say we have an amazing group, and I urge you to join us and become a part of it because it's making us better leaders.
So if I were talking to somebody who wanted to join the group, I would say if you're looking for perspective and you're looking for accountability and you're looking for people that are willing to ride with you on your business journey and help you with the issues that you face on a daily basis and those challenges, then this Vistage group is perfect for you.
The one thing that I would love to share with potential members is really do not let any concerns around time or cost dissuade you from joining a Vistage group. The personal development that I have experienced pays immeasurable dividends in the future. You are worth it. And it is entirely up to you to sort of include this into your personal life. You will find a way to make the time, and you will find a way to leverage the great feedback and information that you'll receive by being a member.
Ultimately, I would highly recommend Vistage. I would highly recommend Nancy as a one-on-one coach, as well as a chair of our Vistage CEO group.
Thank you for taking the time to watch this video. I hope it piques your interest in learning more about our unique peer advisory group in Greater Boston and how we can assist you in reaching your next level of success. I hope you were able to see that our current group's melting pot of combined wisdom creates a highly dynamic experience. My group and I are searching for a few new members with leadership skills such as openness to sharing ideas, getting feedback, and taking action. We want to make better decisions and accomplish greater results. Thus, we're searching for people who have a growth mindset, both professionally and personally, to join our mastermind group. We are seeking members who wish to embody their beliefs and connect in person with other local chief executives from non-competing sectors. For those looking to increase their excellence, our Vistage group is a game changer. Are you looking to up-level to a better version of yourself and your business? If so, we need to chat. I'm excited to learn about you and your company. please book a call using the link in the summary section below so that we can explore if we are a good fit for each other. I look forward to our next interaction. Thank you and have a great day.